This video is made under fair use and is for educational purposes. This is Kim Paddock. A while back I had made this video called Synthetic Vitamins Are Toxic Waste. Vitamin D3 is used as rodent bait, genocide. And I found somebody on Substack who has personal testimony that this is true. And so I thought I would share it with you today. This is from Agent 131711 Substack. My vitamin-induced injuries, how I became an advocate against supplements. He says, I realize I've never shared the full story, so here it is. Many years ago, when I was very asleep and living my life as a normal person who believed absolutely everything I was told without question, I had gotten into bodybuilding. I've always been a relatively thin person, so even though I was working out daily, I was having problems putting on more muscle, specifically in my arms. I used the internet to seek out advice and found sites like bodybuilding.com. On these sites and in bodybuilding forums, the advice was to supplement, and quid cardio, focus only on weights, pound ungodly amounts of protein. Vitamin D was a key supplement because it made for strong bones. I remembered this from those old school Got Milk campaign ads. Of course, that was pushed down our throats as children. Even Stone Cold recommended it for body muscle, and that guy was ripped. I was stoked to have a solution. I rushed to GNC, where I loaded up on hundreds of dollars worth of products from the forums. If a dozen people on the internet said it worked for them, it'll work for me too. Within a short matter of time, I had a shelf that spanned the full length of my closet, loaded with every pill, powder, and fancy little bottle of drops you could name. I was very proud of my shelf, and just seeing it made me feel good because health is important to me. My daily routine was wake up, dose myself with vitamins, grab a jug of protein powder and make a shake, head to work with shake in hand. At work, I had another huge jug of protein powder for my afternoon shake. I would drink it as I left work and drove to the gym. While $89 was a hefty price to pay for a jug of this stuff, I knew the expensive shakes were working because they gave me energy, and with it, I could work harder and longer. Whatever was in this miracle powder, it was like being Superman for 45 minutes a day, and I loved it. Everything was going great, really great, until the day it wasn't. One afternoon, I had a very minor fall at work and not only shattered my ankle, but I also broke the little bones on the top of my foot. It seemed like really bad luck. My sweetheart pointed out that these things happen with age, and I agreed while not realizing I was in my 30s, and that was pretty damn young for such serious damage due to nothing more than a light stumble. My injuries healed very slowly, abnormally slowly. How is this possible? I'm as fit as a fiddle, I thought to myself. A trip to the doctor revealed the reason I am not healing is because I'm not getting enough vitamin D, and he suggested a higher dose. As my physician explained, even though I was taking D, I wasn't doing it right. He said the amount I was taking wasn't enough to achieve results, and I must take it with vitamin K because that is what makes it absorb. Ah, that explains it. I followed this instruction and purchased a high-level dose D plus K oil drops. The bottle said it was natural, so it was worth the extra money. After multiple months, I eventually fully recovered from my injuries. My leg was very scrawny from being in a cast so long. This made getting back into the gym difficult. Even walking was difficult because my leg was so weak. My daily routine continued on. Vitamins, shake, and shake number 2, but this time around, it now included the high dose D plus K, and everything was again great, really great, until it wasn't. The following year, I tripped on a small rock in a parking lot and thought I had badly twisted my other ankle, but it turned out to be another break. This time, it was my right foot, so when I was put in another cast, I could not drive, and I was miserable and confused. Why am I turning into glass? Why am I now clumsy? What the heck is going on? I sank into a deep depression. Internet research told me I had come down with a debilitating bone disease. I felt my life was over. I could not imagine being wheelchair-bound or laid up in bed instead of pumping iron in the gym, swimming in a lake, or hiking on a trail. All hope felt lost. My recovery was slow, even worse than the first break. I watched the weeks tick by, unable to even drive to the store on my own, dealing with scooter at work and crutches at home. My house has lots of stairs, so it was a nightmare. When I was finally able to walk again, a new issue soon appeared. This time it was terrible pain in my calf muscle. At random, when I would stand up from sitting, I would sometimes feel as if my calf had been shot with a bullet. This pain was sometimes so powerful that it would make my knees buckle. I had to limp around because I no longer had full use of my leg when this thing happened. I bought a calf brace, and that helped a little, but not much. The issues continued to flood in. Horrible heartburn, painful urination, severe stomach cramps. I even began suffering migraines for the first time in my life. Going to the gym became difficult, so I bought workout equipment for my basement. Not long after, I began tearing muscles and experiencing pain all over my body, but especially in my rotator cuff. I felt like I was dying. How's this possible when I'm doing everything right? I am the pinnacle of health, and yet I'm falling apart. What could be causing this? Internet research told me it was a genetic issue, and the solutions were corrective surgeries and medications. Other than that, there was nothing I could do about it other than to learn to cope. Not being a fan of surgery, I decided to live with the pain and accept that this is my new life. I was now an 85-year-old trapped in an under-40s body. Come 2016, my workload had increased substantially, so my time for activities was limited. Even when I had free time that I could run downstairs and work out, it seems I was always dealing with some kind of body pain. Eventually, I sold all of my gym equipment and converted the basement to a theater and arcade room. Fast forward to a few years ago when Tim Truth shared a video about vitamin D. And I won't play that here. You can go to his Substack and do that if you'd like. That can't possibly be true, can it? No way. Vitamins are the key to health. Everybody knows that. Strong bones, immune system. Steve Austin, for F's sake. But I knew Tim, and I knew his research was outstanding. He's not the type of guy who shares random clips without attempting to verify them first. Regardless of my fondness for Tim's research, I decided not to trust and instead verify. And sure enough, the woman in the video was right. Vitamin D is indeed rat poison. Further research would reveal it is the only active ingredient in rat poisons. Oh, there it is. Terra D3 blocks. The only active ingredient in this rodenticide is Terra D3, which is vitamin D, and it takes only 0.075% of a serving being vitamin D to murder the animal. Here's a competitor's brand, D-Con. Check out what the 4 total ingredients of D-Con are in their 30-second commercial, and I won't play that for you. Check out the site for yourself, how D-Con rat mouse bait works. One of the best ways to kill mice is with bait stations, but you're probably wondering what's exactly inside of those devices. The active ingredient in D-Con bait blocks is cholecalciferol, which I have talked about in my video too, which uses no anticoagulants or neurotoxins. This active ingredient isn't the only thing in bait blocks. It's blended with fat, flour, and sugar to make it tempting to mice. D-Con refillable bait stations are resistant to tampering by children and dogs. The disposable version is child resistant. If your pet accidentally eats the bait from this device, call your veterinarian or the toll-free number on the package for the next steps. After mice eat the bait, they don't die on the spot, they return to the nest. Tip: check decon bait station's clear window. If the bait hasn't been gnawed, move the device to a new location. Typically, rodents begin to die about 3 days after feeding on the bait. So, they say it right there themselves. Decon. Further down the rodenticide rabbit hole was the biggest revelation. The way vitamin D kills a rat is by stripping its bones of calcium, but the symptoms do not appear immediately. It is a slow kill. What are the different kinds of rodent control measures? Quote, the commercially available mouse and rat control products are effectively and mostly falls into 2 categories: baits, chemical method, and traps, non-chemical. Baits are available in different shapes and sizes, whereas widely used shapes are blocks, which are to be used in a bait station. Baits should be used in low traffic, hard to reach areas such as basements, garages, and attics. Baits are an ideal way to avoid contact with rodents. Once rodents eat bait, they leave the area and die outside. Baits are safe and highly effective if used according to directions. There are 3 types of key active chemical used in baits. 1 is acute, are the ones which acts instantly and result in mortality of a rodent within a few hours. 2 are subacute, are the ones which result in mortality of a rodent between 1 to 3 days. And 3 is chronic. These are the ones which result in mortality of the rodent in 4 to 10 days. The most widely commercially available products contain active chemicals from subacute, vitamin D3 or bromothalen, and chronic category, anticoagulants. Subacute chemicals have different modes of action, e.g. vitamin D3 causes hypercalcemia, and bromothalen is a neurotoxin, whereas anticoagulants, which fall under the chronic category, they prevent clotting of blood. Hence, rodents die from internal bleeding or anemia. Traps are ideal for high traffic areas. 4 types of traps are used. At the very moment I put 2 and 2 together, my injuries were caused by the exact thing I was being told to take to build strong bones. But what I was actually doing was consuming rat poison that was stripping my bones of calcium, and like the information sheet says, symptoms do not appear right away, which is exactly why it took so long for me to start experiencing the side effects. I then learned that synthetic lab-made vitamin D is stored in your body for years. This means each time we take a microscopic dose, it compiles. Because our bodies can't flush it out over time, it leads to incredibly toxic levels, which is when the problems begin. But depending on overall health and body size, it can take a long while to notice side effects. This is why a chemical that kills a small rodent within a week can take multiple years or even a decade or more to begin showing symptoms in a human. Saying I was shocked is an understatement. I became very angry for what had been done to me through deception. With my blood boiling from pissing away money on this supplement and spending months of my life in casts and in excruciating pain, I went on a mission to expose this information. I began sharing my findings on Twitter. This was before I became shadow banned and the site was still enjoyable. I have since completely abandoned the platform because it's pointless. The moment I began sharing safety data proving that vitamin D is a poison, data which came directly from the manufacturers of vitamin D, the famous people of the right, people who I have previously admired, such as Google whistleblower Zach Voorhees, began attacking. Zach not only said something along the lines of that I am an idiot, but also told the public to ignore anything I say on the topic. He explained to his followers, you would have to drink a bunch of bottles to die from it. Nobody's doing that. Agent 131711 is a vaccine pusher. This resulted in the masses pummeling me. I'm a shill working for Big Pharma. I'm stupid. I don't know what I'm talking about. I don't understand science. I don't understand how lethal doses work. I want people to be sickly. Rat poison only hurts rats. It's all about the dose that makes it a poison. Quote, everything is poison if you take too much, end quote. None of which is true. Poison is poison. No poison has health benefits, and there is no lethal dose on bananas. But one thing I noticed was that in a sea of attacks, a slew of people read my posts and had the same reaction I did when I saw Tim's video. It instantly woke them up too. Some even clicked the link I provided to the manufacturer's safety data sheet and agreed that it is indeed poison and nobody should be consuming poison, not even in really tiny daily doses. This revelation led them to discard their D2. Here's the Thermo Fisher safety data sheet. And if you want to look it up yourself, put in the name of whatever they're pushing on you, followed by SDS, which means safety data sheet, and you can pull these up as well. For example, ascorbic acid, which is what the scientists and doctors call vitamin C, is not. It's a chemical. Citric acid is real vitamin C. So that shows you how sold out a lot of these doctors are, who are pushing ascorbic acid on people and saying that, oh, you need 8 to 10,000 IUs a day of ascorbic acid to stay well, while they pocket all the money and watch us die. It's ridiculous. Anyway, back to this. Product name, vitamin D3. Recommended use, laboratory chemicals. Uses advised against food, drug, pesticide, or biocidal product use. And down on the hazard identification, the hazardous ranges from 1, which is the lowest hazard, to 4, which is just plain deadly. So acute oral toxicity on this so-called vitamin D3 is at a category 2, which is toxic. Acute dermal toxicity, category 2. Acute inhalation toxicity, category 2. Targets organs, kidneys, and bones, category 1, which is the lowest category. That means it needs to build up over time to create the monster that they're creating, like he said, just like he said. At the time, I realized that Twitter was not the right outlet to share this type of information because you are limited to only a couple sentences, therefore you can never be thorough. Yes, you can make a multi-part tweet, but I have tried this before, and only the first post gets the views, so people are only reading the initial statement and not viewing the supplemental evidence. I needed a different way to share my findings, but had none. The more I researched, the more I discovered there is no evidence of chemical vitamin D building bones because rat poison cannot build bones. It destroys them. Well, there's your satanic upside down. They say exactly the opposite of what it actually does. The entire thing was fraud that was eroding me from the inside out. I then became suspicious of the entire supplement industry. What about vitamin B? What about C, E, K? These $89 jugs of miracle powder. What exactly is this stuff? How is it made? What is it made from? I wondered. But when I began to try to find answers, I discovered there was no definitive source for vitamin truth. The first 40 pages of an internet search tell you the stuff is key to a long life, and if you spend hours digging deeper, you come across an article here, another one there, some 10-second TikTok video, a couple of podcasts. But why? Why is there such little content on the topic? Yet nearly all of America is taking some form of supplement. When I began researching supplements, AI didn't exist as we know it now, so I had to do it the hard way, endless hours of digging. I needed to figure out where vitamins come from, track down the manufacturers of the raw materials, figure out how those are made, learn what is in them and how that is made to find safety data for it. I slowly began peeling back the layers of this crazy deception, and the more layers are removed, the more my mind was blown. By this point in time, I had made this Substack. I didn't make it to write about vitamins. I created it to write about geoengineering, but my focus shifted because we can't easily control geoengineering, but we can choose what we eat, and people have the right to know what they're consuming, even when they call it a vitamin. My first article ever on a vitamin was Vitamin D is Rat Poison. I had no idea this article would basically go viral on Substack because I didn't have a big following, but it did. Within a day or two, it had over 10,000 reads. My content was quickly attacked by pretty much every famous doctor in unison. They all assured their listeners that vitamin D was absolutely safe, it is not rat poison, and just like Zach, they told their trusting followers to ignore me. Some even said I was paid opposition. It turns out the same doctors saying these things were also selling supplements, including vitamin D. Oh, of course they were. I went on to publish Dr. Lee Merritt is lying about me. Vitamin D is rat poison. Let's review it again. If you only have time to read one of the two pieces, I would suggest the second one because I addressed all of the rebuttals, making it much more thorough than the initial article. While researching for the second piece, I came across a podcast featuring a pretty woman I'd never heard of. She went by the name Medicine Girl. What floored me was that she was sharing a story about her son who suffered a very minor fall at a skateboard park and shattered his shoulder. What did I have in common with her son? We were both consuming a bone-chilling miracle in a bottle called vitamin D. After her son's injury, Medicine Girl had began doing her own research and came to the exact same conclusions as I did. I then discovered Jamie Andrews also suffered an incredibly serious vitamin D-induced injury. That is Medicine Girl on the right. That means 3 different people located in completely different places throughout the world all took a vitamin and were all harmed by it. Now I knew my situation was not unique, but how common was it? And how many people are being injured by supplements, yet led to believe their conditions are not related? Eventually, Medicine Girl and I met through the email, and from opposite sides of the United States, we began comparing notes and researching the topic deeper together. We both began looking into the history of vitamins. Who invented them? Who decided we needed them? How did they determine that? How were the levels set? How are the tests performed? And we discovered the whole thing is a massive sham created by Big Pharma to sell their newer line of health products, supplements. Yep, Pharma not only made the vitamins, but they also made the research showing how essential those products are to our health. They even made the organizations needed to confirm the importance of health in a bottle. We learned the government was bribed to keep the industry completely unregulated. I traced the sources of chemicals used to make vitamins straight to China and India, as well as a coal tar plant in the USA. The more we looked, the more we found, the more angry we became. Throughout this process, one thing was bugging me, something I began running in circles trying to get an answer to. How are vitamins isolated? You see, by this point in time, I knew viruses are a hoax, so I wondered, is it possible vitamins are too? This would explain why I cannot find a single photo of a natural vitamin under a microscope. The pictures that do exist are not of natural vitamins and are instead of the synthetic lab-made copies. Why is this? And how do they know they are making the exact copy if they can't see it? I would eventually discover that the process to isolate vitamins from food is as much of a joke as the process to isolate a virus. Scientists believe they can dump hexane and a bunch of other horrible chemicals on food, heat it, chill it, and strain it, and the vitamins fall out. Seriously, this is how they do it. You can see photos of the step-by-step process here. But the thing is, even after science performs this idiotic process, they still can't see the vitamins because they are invisible, just like the viruses. Therefore, the only way to know which vitamins and how much of them were extracted from the food is to put the sample into a machine and let it tell you. The machine is a giant, expensive PCR test. It's so evil and stupid that it's mind-boggling how I believed this bullshit for so long while never asking a single question. Armed with that information, Medicine Girl then began looking into lab tests and how they work. She uncovered they too are also a fraud, which makes sense because you can't test someone for COVID virus when the virus doesn't exist. So what exactly are you testing for? Answer: some kind of reaction. The tests are set up to create some kind of reaction which allows science to declare the reaction was caused by something else. That something could be a flu virus, an evil bacteria, a vitamin deficiency, AIDS, whatever science says it is. Once the reaction is created, the solution to the problem is either supplements, a prescription, a vaccine, or some kind of medical treatment or surgery, all of which come from the same place, the pharmaceutical giants. Medicine Girl wrote a detailed paper on how the testing scam works. At the end of the day, it's all smoke and mirrors. The entire premise that we need to eat supplements to be healthy, to ward off disease, is the identical premise as getting injections to accomplish the same. It all ties back to immune system theory and germ theory. And in my video, I will connect some more dots for him, because in the 1920s, the people that owned the factories, which is the Khazarian Jewish Mafia, decided they didn't want to pay the fees to properly dispose of all the toxic waste coming out of the factories. In 1928, they decided to change the name of these chemicals to vitamins. They are name changers and name stealers, these Jews. And so they began pushing vitamins on people as far back as 1928 and convincing everybody that you need these vitamins to be healthy. So now you have the rest of the story on how this toxic chemical waste called vitamins came into being, when all we need is the plants and the food that God gave us. I'll leave the link to my video below this. I appreciate all your time and listening to this. Please like and subscribe and look for future videos from me. And thank you very much for your help. And thank you very much for Substack for being a good place to share all of this evidence. Subscribe to Agent 131711 Substack, and mine is Kim Delane Paddock. Thank you very much.